Okay. So we're just going to hear very briefly from our 5 working groups, a representative from our 5 working groups, just to fill us in on highlights from this past year and any plans for this coming year. So I'm going to first call on Anne, and I think maybe Connie's going to join you to give a brief, just a few minutes about that and Watertown faces climate change.
We used this opportunity to make a whole slideshow, or I should say Connie did, which is fabulous. And I'm
You're up.
Oh,
No,
well,
we're watching
that-
if something.
that. But we're not going to go through each one. We'll put this in the chat, and then you can have the whole slide deck to look at later. And it has links in it, so it's actually a working document that you can actually do stuff with after.
Great.
So, Connie, you say the first thing, and then I'll say the second thing. Where'd Connie go?
Are you unmuted, Connie? I can't see your picture at the moment.
I'll just go.
I had to
So-
unmute myself, but you can
Okay.
go ahead. So we made a list of kind of what we're currently doing as a group. And we all, it seems to me as a newbie that we all work together, but we also take leads on certain projects. So these are the different things that we do. We do, we have been involved with the Climate Action Plan. And there's information about everything, as Anne had said. The schools, thank you, Pat, solid waste and recycling initiatives. So there are leads to these different ones, thinking about state climate legislation, sustainable development, and the Fair Share Amendment. So we're just, what we wanted to do, if I can get this.
Next slide.
I know, but it's not working.
It's not?
No, it's, okay, there we go.
Oh, you almost had it.
I almost had it. Okay. So we have 2 questions. I'll talk about the first one, but if you want to write anything in the chat about these questions, feel free to. But really thinking what we wanted to do very quickly tonight was think about the ways that climate and justice work intersect. And kind of thinking about how, in terms of justice, the climate conditions impact the social, economic, public health of everyone, but has disproportionate effects on marginalized folks. And another point that we wanted to make was that social justice really should inform how we do climate change. So those are the 2 pieces that we think are important to know as we try to make some links between groups. Anne?
So I was looking through the rest of the slides and the links and thinking about the work we were doing. And I actually don't think there's a single initiative that we're involved in that doesn't have a justice component at its heart. And I've been thrilled that Watertown Faces Climate Change is a working group of this organization, but we're also a node of 350 Mass. And that group is really centers climate justice work at its heart. And so I'm going to shut up, Sue Ellen, as soon as I say this sentence. And I know this is for later, but what I would really love is for all of you all who care about justice and care about climate to be people we could call on that we know would immediately turn around and sign a pledge card, that would immediately turn around and respond to a certain question, that you don't have to be someone that comes to our meetings to be part of our group. But we need to have a bigger group to do that kind of things, that we'll set it up and organize it, and you guys can do your thing. Of course, anyone is welcome to come and get into the thick of it, but we'd love to see that happen. So I'm done, Sue Ellen.
Okay, thank you, Anne. Thank you, Connie.
Okay, Emma.
And moving on, Jennifer, who's going to talk to us just briefly about the Pigs Gusset Initiative.
Eileen Ryan is going to do the presentation. For
Oh,
the
I'm sorry. I thought it
That's
was.
okay.
Please, Sue Ellen.
Okay, Eileen, go for
All
it.
right, yeah, so I actually wrote out, which is sort of like our mission statement is the first thing I'm gonna read. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the Pigs Gusset Initiative. The word Pigs Gusset is a sort of an anglicized version of an indigenous word that meant the meadows at the widening of the river. And that's why our logo is a turtle with the shape of the river as it runs through Watertown. Okay, the Pigs Gusset Initiative seeks to increase communication and promote collaboration among Watertown residents to undo the erasure of Indigenous peoples from the place now called Watertown and to promote inclusive historical narratives. To this end, we advocate that Watertown residents, elected officials, and other relevant parties work together to acknowledge and respect local diversity by renaming the land in Watertown Square, currently called the Columbus Delta. Examine critically the story that is told in the current Watertown seal and consider creating a new seal that respects and acknowledges the dispossession of the original people who lived here. We'd like to take steps to acknowledge the original people throughout Watertown by conducting a critical inventory of public spaces and the plaques, monuments, and street names that are displayed here. We also want to provide educational opportunities for Watertown residents to learn about the original people, their achievements and struggles, and explore ways to repair and address past and present injustice. And now I'll go into some of the things that we've been doing. So we did recently submit a petition to the City Council to rename the Delta. We do not have a new name for it, but the petition has been accepted. And Mark Sedaris, who is the president of the City Council, told me yesterday that he is going to get it onto the docket as soon as possible. Right now, he's just dealing with, our city manager that we've had for years is retiring. So he's got some loose ends to tie up with that. But we will let all of you know when that meeting is happening. And we would love it if you want to come to the hearing. Everybody will have 2 minutes to speak in support of renaming the Columbus Delta. I don't know if any of you saw the play, listened to Sipu. I'm sure some of you did at New Rep last year, but we have recently gotten 2 grants to fund scenes from the play in the 3 elementary schools and the middle school. So those grants were from the Watertown Community Foundation and the Watertown Cultural Council. Let's see, it's like, okay, the play is about the relationship between the original peoples here and the settler colonists who arrived in the 1630s. We are also hoping to collaborate with the library. So in March, there's one book, one read, and they're reading Braiding Sweetgrass, which is a wonderful book by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is an Indigenous botanist. And there's a whole array of programs that the library is putting together that have to do with Indigenous culture, storytelling, history. And I have written to somebody at the library, I haven't heard back yet, but we're hoping to promote the Pigs Gusset Initiative through some of that programming. We support the Massachusetts Indigenous Legislative Agenda. Am I over my time?
Just keep going, but just you can speak faster.
Okay, and to help educate people around issues related to school mascots, advocate for more inclusive school curricula and the importance of honoring the original people with Indigenous Peoples Day. We held a well-attended forum on November 14th entitled Local Indigenous History, Educating Ourselves, Taking Action, Moving Forward. We'd like to see increased local Indigenous content in the Watertown school curricula. We're thinking about the 400th anniversary of Watertown, which is coming up in 1630, and we want to include more Indigenous history in that. We meet on the last Monday of the month, usually the 4th Monday, and from 5:30 to 7:30, we welcome more people. We have a mailing list of about 26 people. We get between 12 to 15 people to come. You don't have to live in Watertown to be a member. And if you want more information, the Watertown Citizens for Peace, Justice, and the Environment website has more info about the Pigs Gusset Initiative. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Eileen. You packed it all in. That was great. And Pam, Friends of Bees. Pam, are you still here somewhere?
I had, she left and I just rejoined, just, I don't know where she went, but she's coming back.
Okay, so Tyler, why don't we go on, Tyler, if you want to give us a little lowdown on Watertown Communities for Black Lives.
Sure. Yeah, let's see. I'm sort of rethinking because I was should have read the homework assignment more carefully. Sort of talking a little more generally about the group and not as quite as focused exactly on this year and the coming year. But I'll introduce you to something about our group. So this group was formed about 5 or 6 years ago, and in 2020 it was expanded and reorganized. And since then we've operated under the leadership of people of color, which is a commitment of our group. We kind of pay attention to national events, and national events sparked both the founding of the group and the reorganization. A lot of people got interested after the murder of George Floyd and the protests then. And since then, with our bigger group, we're a little bit more racially diverse, which we see as a strength. We are still like Watertown. Most of the people in the group identify as white or seen as white. But because of the way systemic racism works, kind of proximity to whiteness, the more you're seen as white, the kind of less direct the impacts of racism might be on you, and the more likely you might be to kind of feel like they're invisible or that you don't have to think about them all the time. So we definitely find it a strength to have a more diverse membership. That's a tiny bit about who. I'm going to say a couple of little things about kind of what brought me there, and in the interest of what might bring other people into the group. I've thought since I was a kid that I learned that like everybody's equally valuable, and I took that to heart very deeply, but I somehow still had a real disconnect between that and the inequities, the racial inequalities I saw around me. I think I had this understanding, as many people do, that racism is like people being mean because they think some people are not as good as other people. And that is one kind of racism. But in addition to the feelings we have inside, internal racism and interpersonal racism, where someone is mean to someone else or discriminatory to someone else, we now also, because of our long history of racism sort of being kind of created to justify exploitation, it's got a momentum to it. So the racial inequalities happen even when there isn't someone having a feeling like that. So that's something that it took me a long time to see. And by now I see that as so important that there's not really a big problem that we face that you can't understand better and more deeply Blacks with it. I think it's really deep and central to our problems. And so our vision as a group, of course, is for our community to be resilient against this entrenched, ongoing racism, to dismantle it and to create, an equitable way of life for everybody, regardless of their race. So I'm going to race, if I may, through some of the slides that we show at every one of our monthly meetings, because it's a way to kind of talk about what we do and how we do stuff. That is here, I believe. So if I do this, sorry, as a slideshow, does that work better like that?
Mhm.
Great.
So, oops, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. So our mission statement is that we're a community member organization that campaigns against violence and systemic racism in our local community. So we do want to really focus on what's going on right here. And this is where you can find us, wcbl.org. I won't go into all of these. We go over these every meeting, but I'm going to skip down to this fourth one, recognize intent and acknowledge impact, because I think it's a really key one about racism. It's easy to think because I didn't intend to do anything harmful that I can't be doing anything racist. But we agree among us that the impact of our actions and the impact of policies is just as important as the intent behind them. And sometimes those aren't aligned. We have to acknowledge both. And the next one as well, being willing to be uncomfortable. Florida's trying to pass a law to make it illegal to make people uncomfortable so that white people don't have to face our true history. And we believe that, it's important to be willing to be uncomfortable in order to face the truth. So the way our group is structured, as I mentioned, we operate under leadership of a group that's made up of people of color, and we also have an operations team of which I'm a part, and we are looking for new members on the operations team as well, to kind of keep stuff going. But the real work, I think, of our group, of our working group, is our interest groups, like our sort of subgroups. And right now, those focus on police policy reform, supporting racial equity in the public schools in Watertown, Watertown government, focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion in the government. We have a group we're coordinating a film series called Race Reels. And this past year, we had Watertown's first celebration of Juneteenth. So folks get together to celebrate Black culture and Black history and create events like that. We look forward to doing more of those. We're very, like, the individual initiative is really how things happen. So I'll just skip over the details here. I'm happy to share any of that stuff. We have a discussion list that's unmoderated. So some of our process, I wanted to make sure I said that we focus on both process and action. That's important to us. So some of our process is internal, some of it is sharing learnings, some of which we do through our Facebook group and our email lists. And some of what we do, especially through those interest groups, is action out in the world. And our website again, wcbl.org. All right.
Thank you, Tyler.
In 5 minutes.
Great, that's good. Pam, you're back, I think.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Tell us about Friends of Bees.
Yes, Friends of Bees. So I've got my bee blanket here. I don't know if you can see the bees on it.
Whoa.
Anyway, so Friends of Bees was founded in 2014 to advocate for and educate about our native bees, especially our native bees. That also includes honeybees and other pollinators. And people get very interested in bees. We humans, I believe, have a special relationship with honeybees that goes way, way, way back. And so what we do is basically we do events and education. We help people find plants that will actually help our local bees. And so last year I led 2 pollinator walks in Mount Auburn Cemetery. And let's see, what's the other? Oh, and we did our Life Friendly Garden Tour focusing on pollinators. We did that one in the fall. And we've been working with the DPW, Department of Public Works, in the last year, got very interested in adding more pollinator gardens. So we planted 3 new pollinator gardens, public pollinator gardens in Watertown. One is right at the DPW headquarters, and another one is at the senior center. And the third one is in Philippa Park, blah, blah. And we're hoping that next year we can have Watertown, not next year. I've been saying this so long. My big ambition is to have this year to start really pushing to have Watertown become a bee city. And what that means is that we would ask for, to have an ordinance that would establish like a pollinator committee and have the town host educational materials like on their website or maybe on our website, and make a permanent commitment to not use pesticides, to improve pollinator habitat, to educate people about pollinators, and to hold events. There's a 5th one. There's a 5th. I think the 5th one is just to pay dues and report to the parent organization, which is the Xerces, or that's spelled XERCES, the Xerces Society for Insect Conservation. And it's a national group that's a great resource. And so they help run Bee City. Lexington became a Bee City on beekeeping. And I hope that when Watertown becomes a Bee City, we can be the one who's focused on our native bees. So it's like bumblebees, and you see my little icon. That's my favorite bee. She's a little bee. She's about half the size of a honeybee, but she has a big, long, fancy name, and it's Agapostamone. And she lives in the ground, and she comes out during the summer, and she's actually very common, but she's green. So most people don't even know that they're bees. So one of my educational presentation is, I call it Meet Your Bees, and I can show you what our local bees look like. And that's, I'm planning to do that at least once, I try to get that one in at least once a year to show people who our bees are, and then do the pollinator walks, and you get to walk around and actually look for bees. And we've been working with the Town Conservation Commission, who's very excited about becoming a bee city. And we decided to sort of like go through the steps rather than formalizing it. I'd like to formalize it this year. And of course, also, I've joined the community outreach committee of the Watertown Community Gardens. And there are other organizations that help out. There's Mystic Charles Pollinator Pathways, which is more of a local umbrella group. And they want to put together a map that will help connect gardens to each other. And we also have a state organization, which is the Massachusetts Pollinator Network. And that's part of NOFA, which is Northeast Organic Farmers Association. And they're much more focused on doing the statewide like legislation and banning particular kinds of insecticides like neonicotinoids. And that's what we're doing.
All right, thank you, Pam. Lots of good information there. Lots of good stuff. So I will just wrap up to give a really brief picture of our refugee support group, which also started around 2014 in response to the Syrian crisis, when it was really starting to get very upsetting to people. And of course, we're now we're helping families all over the state. Refugee families, asylum seekers, undocumented folks, just doing everything we can to help people in need, both to settle into a new life here or to help them get some kind of status and keep them feeling safe. And we do everything from helping people with housing, with tutoring, with medical appointments, with language. There's just about everything you could imagine. Sometimes clothing, sometimes just moral and emotional support, helping get legal help for folks who need it. And in the past, pre-COVID, we did educational forums at the library. We did some films, showed some films, but we and in addition to the things I just described with helping particular families. And right now we're not doing in-person events, but we are adding now to our work is helping Afghan refugees as well. And I think, as Mary mentioned earlier, that there's also a subcommittee that's formed to work on trying to get the word out, which has been forgotten in the media totally, about people who are already living in this country, have been paying taxes, have been working, and they have pending asylum and have been waiting years and years for interviews. And it's a very difficult situation and can be very tense for them in relationship to new refugees who are coming in, whether Afghanis or Haitians or Central Americans who are getting refugee status and all the things that come with that. Whereas they're just sitting in limbo and can't get financial aid if their children are going to school because they don't have asylum status yet. So there's all kinds of issues. So we have a new subcommittee that includes Jackie, actually, working to try to start bringing that to people's attention through press releases, through contacting legislators' offices and seeing if we can get things moving, and kind of a campaign, strategizing a campaign to get the word out about pending asylum seekers and the frustrations and difficulties that they face. So that's it. You have a pretty good picture of our current 5 working groups. And I know at some point in a breakout group, Tony's going to talk about his idea for a new working group. And this is really a member-driven organization. So when someone has an idea about a working group and wants to try to see if there's interest in putting it together, any one of you can come forward and talk about that. And many of the working groups over the years have often gone on and become separate organizations, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, the plastics group. There's all kinds of ways in which we have kind of fostered and kind of had been able to spin off a number of working groups to go into some breakout groups, small groups. and
Sue Ellen,
about
Sue
what-
Ellen, before you do that, could you, Kathy Button came on, if you could just
Oh,
maybe
Sure.
just let her say hi.
Absolutely. Hi, Kathy. Sorry, I missed that.
that's quite all right. I'm sorry I'm late. Lovely to be here, however. Wish I had more bandwidth because I'd love to help in every way I can, but yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Do you want to say anything about why you're here, what your interests are?
Well, I'm interested in all kinds of things. I'm the chair of the Green Sanctuary Committee of First Parish. And people should know about the program on Friday that Eileen Ryan is
Yes.
doing on plastics pollution. I mean, she's terrific. Yeah, of course, I'm interested in Indigenous rights. And I'd love to do more with Mishy's group. I mean, there's so many more things. Yeah, I have this space up in Maine, and I'm with a blueberry baron, and yes, I'm very aware of the native pollinators. So I have many interests, but less and less energy.
Got it. I can relate to that. Okay, thank you for joining, Kathy.
You're welcome.
So this is our chance for you all to get to know in a more intimate, small group, people maybe who you don't know at all, or people you maybe don't know that well. And we'll just create some small breakout groups of 3 to 4 people, and Pam's going to facilitate that. And asking you to share in those groups, what brought you to Watertown Citizens and what you would like to see Watertown Citizens doing in 2022 and beyond. If you have ideas on topics for presentations, for potential speakers or films or just issues and ways that maybe working groups can even collaborate with each other, or groups that you would like to collaborate with, and any kind of local action. So basically talk about how you would like to relate to Watertown Citizens in ways that you may not be right now, and your dreams and visions for our future, for this year and beyond. And then at the end of this 20 minutes, then if you can make sure someone volunteers to report back to all of us together when we finish the breakout groups and come back together. So
Would you
Pam,
like to stop the recording now?
Oh, I think the recording won't capture the breakout rooms. But
Yeah,
it might be better. You might as well just stop it. Yeah.
sure, we can
And
start.
Sue Ellen, I just want to let you know that I posted in the